Happy Buffalo Bills AFC Divisional Round Playoff Friday. So, did everyone survive the storm? No, who didn't survive? Well, I want to thank all of you for your patience, because when we have events like this, and of course they were back-to-back storms, we do have to suspend some services and make do with what we have, because there's a lot of staff who could not get here, either this weekend or during the week. We made some adjustments in the dining room. We had some more bistro nights. They were not buffets, but they were a little different, which our new bistro version of bistro night. So thank you for your patience on that. I hope everyone liked the happy hour, the impromptu happy hour we had on Saturday nights. That was fun for me anyway. You're welcome. And thank you for your patience with regards to housekeeping, because I know we have 11 housekeepers that usually work on your apartments, and throughout the week only 2 could get in at various times. There were more during the week, but then as the snow fell, it was harder, so we had to suspend some of your services. I know some of you were disappointed, but again, we will get caught up and get back to you. As far as snow removal goes, as I drove in, Matt and his team were already brushing off cars and moving those vehicles if we have the key, and then we have a team with plowing the snow, and we actually have somebody moving some of the big piles too. We have a front loader out there. So we're doing the best we can, but I think the crew we have did a great job throughout the weekend and the week of keeping the roads clear, and for emergency vehicles. So if you see any of them, thank them. And again, I just want to one more compliment to Dining Services. You may not see it, but Lisa Sanders was here several nights during the past week because her staff couldn't get in. And the way Lisa operates is we need breakfast. We need to serve our health center. And there's such dedication there that, again, you may not see who comes in or who doesn't on the other side, but we have a great leadership team here that steps up when they need to. Yes, Sue.
You're the leader of the team, and so you need kudos for how the people underneath you work, because you set the example.
I'm going to beat you for that.
All right, and a second announcement.
Yes,
when
Sue.
we were without phone and computer service from Spectrum, you can call Spectrum and get your bill prorated. It's a phone call, they're polite. You need to tell them which days you did not have service. Mine was only a pittance because I have only a telephone. It was $3.86.
Thank you, Sue. So if anyone didn't catch that, because of the windstorm we had before the snowstorm, and Spectrum was out for several days, and again, that's not a Fox Run thing, that's Spectrum. You can call them and get a bit of a refund. And if you're not sure how to do it, Sue would be happy to call for you. And because of the storms, we had planned on going to opening the bistro in the evenings this week. That was postponed until Monday, so we're going to start that Monday the 22nd. I just want to say we had our first resident the neighborhood luncheon that we're going to do. All of you at some point will be invited. We had our first one yesterday, and I thought it was very successful. We got to meet some great folks. Alan Green is nodding right now. And it was nice because we got to hear the background and stories of everyone, get to know you a little bit. Your neighbors already know you somewhat, but then it was a nice chance for them to hear it again or hear it for the first time. But then I got to talk about the expansion, the proposed expansion, and give you more details and allow you to ask questions, fire complaints, whatever your thoughts are. That's the platform for it. So it went very well, and we're going to have another one, I believe, on Monday. I think that's all I have. Oh, one last thing. Your tax letter. So every year we have an actuary that provides a tax letter. It usually comes out in late February, sometimes early March. I don't know what happened, but they're ready already. So you're going to have your letters probably by the end of the week next week. All right, so my announcements are over. I'm gonna hand it off to Becky.
Good morning. I just wanted to clarify a few things. There might be some people confused about Winter Olympics. I see that there has been quite a few people signed up for Winter Olympics. It is in the activities book, but I've been told that they can't find it. Well, you have to keep going back, because remember, Olympics is in February. So Winter Olympics is February 5th through the 9th. There's going to be 4 different sports being done: bocce ball, volleyball, beanbag toss, hockey. Now, when you sign up, if there is something you absolutely don't want to be part of, please put that next to your name. Employees will also be working along with us on the team. So once I have all your names, which they should all be in there by the end of this month, which is the 31st. And then I will be grabbing those names and forming the teams. You will be on teams with other staff members and fellow residents. I think that is all the questions. Does that answer everybody's question about Winter Olympics?
Who are the captains again?
The captains are Bill and myself. The referees will be Killian and Melissa. And I might have a few residents helping me with some stuff. But it should be a fun time, so please sign up, okay? Yeah. All right.
I do have one more announcement. I need to think of my victory speech for the Olympics. But that's not the announcement. In your mailboxes this week, we put our annual resident survey. The board of directors asked that we move the timetable up. Usually last year was early February. So I know we had done a survey about the expansion. There's a brand new one. It's the annual resident survey. Don't forget to fill it out. The rankings and the numbers are one thing, but it's really important that we get comments and feedback, because I love the phrase, you don't know what you don't know. So until we hear from you, if you'd like to see something changed or something a little different, or that we're doing a great job, please put it in writing in that form, because I get not only do I and the directors get a copy of all of it, but the board of directors gets a copy of it, because that's how they gauge how we are doing as a management team. So please provide your feedback, tell us how we're doing, and I think there's a due date of
February 2nd.
February 2nd. So, okay, 5th. Sue says 5th. I don't believe Melissa, I believe Sue.
Sorry, Melissa.
Okay, Allison. No more announcements for me, I promise.
Good morning, everybody. I didn't have many announcements today, but I did want to point out our new resident, Barb Thomasat, is here. Barb's sitting right by Alona. She just moved in. Thank you, Barb. She just moved in this past Thursday from Binghamton, so I got to spend some time with her this week, and she's going to be a great addition to Fox Run, so we welcome Barb. And now I would like to bring up your fellow community member, Dick Weeson, to introduce our speaker for today.
Am I here? No? Can you hear me?
Yes.
All right. Most of what I'm going to say is here on the screen. I'm introducing Professor Patrick Ravinas, who is director and professor of the Patricia H. and Richard E. Garman Art Conservation Department at Buffalo State University. Patrick has been in town at this job for a little over a dozen years. He had held responsible positions at Eastman School Museum in Rochester before coming here. His interest professionally is in the physics, chemistry, and material science of the 19th century photographers. I'm not sure, all I remember is Matthew Brady, and I'm sure there's more than that. The program is a very extraordinary program. It is the only program of its type in the State University, and it's one of only 4 in the nation. Founded around 1970s, in Cooperstown. It came to Buffalo in the early 1980s and has been at Buffalo State ever since. So please give a warm welcome to Professor Robinis.
Is there a lapel mic?
No.
Sorry about that.
Good morning. It's good to be here. I'm glad the snow has kind of stopped. But this is my first time in Orchard Park that I can remember with so much snow. I prefer it in the spring.
Excuse me, could you put it this way so we can hear you better?
This way?
Okay.
Okay, good. Please stand up, wave your arm, because I tend to do this.
Yes.
So, but hopefully I will not. Anyway, again, it's good to be here, good to meet you all. And I would like to state thank you, Dick, for inviting me to come and talk. I was emailing Dick yesterday saying, are you guys still on? Or this morning, and he said, yes, we plow very well. So I am here, and what I'd like to do is talk to you about the conservation program, the Patricia E. and Richard E. Garman Art Conservation Department. So I'm going to rearrange this a bit. Okay, good. Okay, so what I'd like to do, I mean, you probably all know Buffalo State. You probably all know Buffalo State, and this is what it looks like without snow. We're located in Rockwell Hall, and really from here all the way past the green fields is the campus, and you can actually see Canada from this photograph. But anyway, we occupy Rockwell Hall, we're in North here, and as Dick mentioned, we were in Cooperstown, and basically we were there for 17 years. The paperwork, the official paperwork took place in 1983, and they had to find a location. Rockwell Hall was it, and we've been there since 1987. So we've been there for almost 40 years. Is this working for you? No? Sorry. Okay, I just have it next to my chin.
No, you just have to point it this way, as if it's coming right at you. Yes.
Oh,
There you go.
thank you.
Leave it there.
I'll do karaoke afterwards. Okay, good. Now, we come from this lineage. Many of you may have heard of the Monuments Men and then the movie. Book in 2007, movie in 2014. How many of you have read the book? Oh, cool. How many of you saw the movie? I like that. Anyway, what's interesting about the Monuments Men is that Sheldon Keck, and Sheldon Keck and his wife, he was the Monuments Man, but both of them, Sheldon Keck and Caroline Keck, started the conservation program at New York University in the 1960s. They left in the late 60s, went to Cooperstown and started the conservation program there and associated it with SUNY at Oneonta, but with the seat in Cooperstown. This is an example of what they were doing, was locating and looking for a lot of the looted works and repatriating them. And at the same time, looking at their condition, what has happened to them with all the movement and the hiding them and storing them in caves or mines and things of that sort. So from there, we jump to the Cooperstown days from 70 to 87, and this is just a shot of some of the facilities at the time, and this is us now in Buffalo. Just giving you an example of some of the items that the students do, and I'll be doing a little more on that as we go along. So, what is the conservation of art and cultural heritage? Basically, probably one of the most interdisciplinary or cross-disciplinary or transdisciplinary subjects that I know of. And basically we're looking at art, we're looking at history, the history of art, we're looking at science, craft, culture, and technology. And all of this is wrapped up into what we have at Buffalo State, is the 3-year program that the graduate students take, and they are eventually awarded a dual master's degree. And in all of SUNY, all of the 64 SUNY campuses, we are the only ones that have a dual master's degree. The MA is the conservation of art and cultural heritage, and the theoretical components as well as the practical, the actual doing, and you'll see more of that in a bit. And then the Master of Science is really in the conservation science and imaging, and that's a bit of chemistry, a bit of physics, a bit of material science, applied to earthworks, to cultural heritage, to archaeology, to, say, glass, ceramics, metals, painting. So we have all those different things that we're looking at. So it's very interdisciplinary, and I just want to introduce you to my colleagues. Zhuan Shen is an associate professor of imaging, examination, and documentation. So basically, you could say she's doing a combination of physics, light, optics, as well as photography, which is, before we used to go with silver-based imaging materials. Now it's all silicon chips, and you probably all have one of these, and you use this to do photography, to call, and you do everything. So we've gone from silver-based to silicon-based, and that's her expertise. So we do general photography with daylight or artificial light. We also do imaging with infrared and ultraviolet radiation. That just reveals different things. And we also use X-rays. So we're the only X-ray department, or X-ray facility in the school. And I always figured I wanted to have a full portrait of myself in X-ray, but that hasn't happened yet. But Zhuan teaches that. Fiona Beckett is our professor of paintings conservation. She just became associate professor this month, which is really nice, because those of you who are in academia know the process of going from assistant to associate is very laborious, time-consuming, but my congratulations to her. She comes to us from the Indianapolis Museum of Art, where she was a fellow there, and she received her education and training at the Queen's University program in Canada. So she's an import. Teresa Smith is associate professor of paper conservation, and she's one of our graduates from 2006. She was at Harvard University Libraries for a decade before she came to us, and she teaches all about paper, that would be watercolors, prints, rare books, manuscripts, photographic materials, and things of that sort. Rebecca Ploger, associate professor of the organic materials that you find, that would be paper, it could also be plastics, synthetics, and her specialization, her PhD was in polymer materials, looking at synthetic paints, alkalis, and acrylics. Emily Hamilton, she's a graduate of the Buffalo program of 2011, and she's now assistant professor of objects, and she has the largest task, because she needs to teach about glass, ceramics, metals, archaeological materials, textiles, plastics. So she works closely with Rebecca and with Zhuan. And we have an opening for a professor to teach inorganic materials. So right now I'm filling in for that position, but this is the group that we have. So we're a small group, and we have 30 students every year, and I'm showing you the class of 2022, 2024, and 2025. The class of 2023 was not present. They were already at internship sites for the year, and so this is them. And that's a more serious photograph. This is them having a big fun for the cameras. And, you know, I would say the average age of our students is probably the late 20s. Some are as young as 23, 24 that just finished their undergraduate degrees, and many of them will work, and we have students that are in their late 30s and early 40s, kind of like a career change. So they come in, I guess, all sizes and shapes and ages. So let me show you a bit of what Teresa does, looking at the area of paper conservation. And I mentioned rare books, library materials, archives, but also we deal with comics. I think comic books and popular culture are really kind of interesting in that there's a collecting frenzy. Are you familiar with Comic-Con? It's a huge meeting that takes place in California every year, and it deals with comic books, it deals with sports cars, it deals with movies and everything. And there's a lot of interesting material, and many libraries, like the New York Public Library, have sections where they collect magazines, comic books, sports cards, and things of that sort. So we work with them as well. This is a shot of the Paper Conservation Studio, the lab. It's on the 3rd floor of Rockwell Hall. It looks kind of fancy with all those suction arms. You know, the suction arms looks kind of space agey. And this is one of our students, Perrine Lasalle, the class of 2020, working on this pastel. And I'll show you a quick look at what she started with. It came into the office like this, and it was really in very, very bad condition. It was this portrait that was hanging, it was framed, hanging on top of a fireplace. And for some reason or other, the nail gave, came crashing down. The frame broke, the glass that was in front of it broke, and it became really shattered. It shattered so much because the paper had become brittle. It wasn't the highest quality paper. It had aged. It was kind of weak, delicate, and it broke. So Perrine took it upon herself to do the work, and she actually came up with a beautiful result. I was present when she was giving her final talk at the end of her 2nd year, and the owners, the couple, came to see that, and the wife was in tears. I mean, these were tears of joy because it had been restored to what it looked like. So this is kind of conservation and restoration working hand in hand. Another aspect of paper, or paper being used for objects, is these 2 lanterns by Isamu Noguchi, and we have Rio Lopez and Alison Snunker working on them. Rio is now working at the Museum of the Academy of Motion Picture Films, and Allison is at the Indianapolis Museum of Art. And they're both object conservators. Let me just take you through a few steps on what can be done to motion brown paper. This is Grace Walters from the class of 2020, and she's working on a piece, on a print, probably lithographed by Georges Braque. And what she's doing here is the paper has been quite dry, so she's put it in a humidification chamber for the paper to absorb. Have you noticed in the wintertime, the newspaper you have or any type of paper object can be very dry and very stiff, but in the summertime, with the moisture and the humidity, it's floppier? Well, basically, that's what she's doing. She's humidifying it to make it more pliable, because then she's able to be able to treat it aqueous treatment in this process, and so it becomes easier. So it's a stepwise process to be able to remove the overall yellowing as well as remove some of the staining, and those are stains caused by mold. So this paper has been in a high humid environment where mold spores have become active and then grown on the paper and stained it. Another work by 3 of our students, looking at a hand-colored print. And another example of what's happening to this particular piece. This was in a book. It was torn out. They call it a breaker. And so you can see how discolored it is here, but you can also see how much discoloration is on the backside, and you also have the tape stains. So Carolyn Burns, who now is in private practice in the Pittsburgh area, started working on it. And she did similar aqueous treatments. This is what it looks like before, and this is what has happened to it afterwards. So this is closer to what it looked like when it was first printed. But we really don't know what it looked like, but it's closer to that. And you can see that the colorants, the grain colorants have affected the paper, and you can see this kind of, we'll call it shadowing or burning of the paper because of the green pigments. The green pigments very likely contain copper. It's a copper grain. Copper and iron and some other metals are known to degrade paper, so this is something to watch for. The owner was informed of this. So you've seen flat paper, or works of art on flat paper. The other thing that we do is we teach about book binding. I mean, that's kind of a subspecialization within paper. Book conservation, book binding, looking at bindings from a variety of centuries and a variety of different cultures. In this case, the woman who's under the arrow, Anne Hillam, is a professor, guest lecturer who comes 3 or 4 times a year to teach about bookbinding and also guide and mentor all of the students who are interested in pursuing book conservation. So, I'll pause right now in case you have any questions regarding the slides that I just showed. And if not, I'll continue. Don't be bashful.
Are the pieces that you conserve brought to you and then given back to the people that bring them to you, or are they part of a collection for the museum?
Good question. So, basically, all of the works that come to the department are usually from a museum. It could be the Birchfield Penny Art Center. It could be the Albright Max Gundlach Museum. It could also be other museums, families, private collectors, galleries. So they all come to us by one way or another, and then they are returned. Every so often, every once in a while, like remember Storm Sandy, which happened maybe 10, 12, maybe 8, 10 years ago? It hit New York really hard, and many galleries claimed insurance on the pieces that were damaged by the storm. And we received, I'd say, upwards of a dozen of works of art from the insurance company, which had paid off the gallery, and they gave us the objects to use them as test subjects. So in many cases, some of the students work on those pieces as well, and in some cases, we revive them. We really, truly restore them, and then we're in a quandary as to what can we do with it? What do we do with it? Because the insurance company has written it off, so we can't sell it as much as I'd like to. So basically that becomes part of our collection, and we can just display it in our own storage area. So we've had works by many different artists that we've been able to do that, either fire, water damage, or something like that. So does that answer your question? Anything? Yes.
Yeah, what about rubber cement? I did artwork back in the 50s and 60s. Rubber cement, the aesthetic, and they had burned through the artwork. I gave it to Buffalo State, and I wondered, and they do have one, but I wondered how they can get that rubber cement out of the canning. It burns through the paper.
Yeah, rubber cement is really nasty material. It worked well in the short term, but basically it can impregnate the paper. It discolors really well, as you say, and there are ways to remove it. In some cases we can remove it, in some cases we cannot remove it. It all depends on the paper, but it also depends on the media. Is it watercolor? Is it oil? Is it printing ink? Because sometimes what can remove the rubber cement also removes the media. So we're basically weighing out many different options to be able to remove something that is offensive without damaging or impinging in any way, shape, or form on the work of art. So yes, I'm not really familiar with the pieces that you mentioned, but it's very likely that a student has attempted to remove and to work and to conserve and restore the piece. Okay. If you have any other questions, let's wait for the next one. So I wanted to show you what Fiona does in her particular section in paintings conservation, because I think they all do really neat stuff. Now, one thing I wanted to mention, which Roberta brought up earlier, is we have a clinic. every fall, usually late September, we open up doors to the public, by appointment, mind you, and they bring their works of art to be examined, to be determined if it's a project that can be taken on by the student or professor. In this particular case, one of my neighbors had this piece. I was visiting her. She said, "Can you do something about this?" And I said, "Well, you need to go speak to the experts." So she brought it, and it turns out that this piece of a winter scene has been painted on top of a clown. So it's basically two paintings. And that was discovered when they did the X-ray. So it was pretty neat. Susan Fenterline was with the shorter one with the mask. That was one of her projects. And she was very excited to have found that. And she has the bubbly personality like that of a clown, so she was even doubly pleased with that particular project. This is a studio shot of a lot of the students working on doing, preparing gesso for doing panels. Some of the things that happen in paper, paintings, and objects is every student is given a project, or they pick a project that has to do with the particular form of art, particular technology, and the materials, and they learn how to make something with that as traditionally as possible, and then modifying it as well to see what's going on. This teaches them how the materials work, how the process ends up with the particular end result, the work of art that you want to achieve, or the work of craft you want to achieve, and so you can then start seeing how it is the materials have been used, the end result, and you can determine what is an inherent defect based on the materials of the process versus what you have when you're looking at something that's happened externally. So you can kind of get an idea of what's happening to that piece by looking at the two of them. So this is what they're doing here, they're preparing panels, and they're doing egg tempera panel paintings. This is Anita Day doing hers. Some of you may recognize who she was doing. Anyway, all of the students do this, they learn all about it. And this is Melissa working on a very problematic Haitian painting by the artist, I will forget his name, I think it's Juliet. But this particular piece was shipped to us using FedEx, and it was damaged en route. And the trouble with this particular painting was that you looked at it and it cracked. And so it was very problematical. And the family that sent it to us was collecting this painter. And I was talking to Fiona about it because it was very problematic. Melissa had completed the treatment, it was in storage, we brought it out to take a look at it, and all of a sudden, a different area started cracking, so Melissa had to go back to it. Melissa left, the painting had not been picked up yet, Fiona brought it out, more cracks. So Fiona had to actually treat that. So it was very problematical. In the end, the owners did come, they did take it, and we found out at that time that they also had more of them, and they would like us to treat them, but Fiona said, sorry, this artist is too problematical. So they had to go somewhere else. This is Khan, class of 2024. She's working on something that's pretty damaged, and these things can be revived, so to speak. Now, let me show you this piece. Hopefully, take a look at what's happening and how you see it being cleared out. Basically, the old yellow varnish is being removed of this particular panel painting. Yeah. So you can see the visual difference of, see, his tan just disappeared, and the legs are much lighter. So basically this is is what Judy Ribbett's, one of her major projects. It's from the 17th century, from the studio of Gentileschi. And so that was pretty much one of the biggest treatments for this particular piece, the removal of an old, organic, natural varnish that had just yellowed considerably. So you see this piece now in a different vein. And now this is the other extreme, and here, a varnish is being, oops, sorry. You remove the varnish, then you apply a varnish. And so here we're applying a varnish of modern materials that should age, but much less compared to natural varnish. And this is Lindsay Cross, class of 2023, and she is now at the Virginia Museum of Fine Arts. Now this is a piece from the Albright, and it's Summer Glow. We'll get there in 6 months. But also Sarah Kornhauser was treating this particular piece, and this piece was also very problematical. It had been left in a damp, kind of, it wasn't necessarily a basement, but the area had been very damp, and so it had been affected quite a bit. And I'm just going to show you some samples that were taken from that particular spot. This is the cross-section of the paint showing how many layers, and that's just light reflected. And here what we have is we're irradiating it or shining it with ultraviolet radiation, so different materials are fluorescing and giving us a different spectrum, indicating what type of paints were used. And so we were able to use that to be able to determine why things had faded. So this is a before treatment, very dirty, lots of pieces missing. This is a totally conserved and restored piece. And actually, it was the curators at the Albright who weren't sure that this could be taken back to what it used to look like.
So my question is, I look back to a couple of the pieces before where it was one with the baby laying across the lap of a woman, and the coloring was so different. I mean, it was almost dramatic. Even not just the skin tone, but even the purple shawl or whatever it was. Do the museums that give you are they shocked when they get it back that they didn't expect it to? Are they ever surprised by what it looks like?
Yes. Yeah. Some museums, like the curator that came, it was one curator and collection manager. The collection manager, after Sarah gave her talk, collection manager got up and said, "I can't believe that you did this," because she just didn't think it could be done. So I will say that in many cases we can, but in many cases, or I should say, in some cases we are unable. So it depends. And so this is why when somebody brings a work to us and it's accepted, we always say, look, we're going to need a minimum of 2 years, perhaps even 5 years, depending on the complexity of the piece. Sometimes, and I will use this comparison. These are our patients, and when we go to a doctor, we're their patients. So we're, in a sense, looking at these, you say we're the doctors of art. Basically, sometimes one test will reveal one thing, we don't do another test until later that reveals something different, so it varies. So yeah, in some cases things happen where people are just amazed at what's going on, and I think, I'm showing you this because I found this one to be extremely amazing. When Sarah was removing the dirt and then the varnish, she had done maybe a part of it, and I was telling her, Sarah, you left the unclaimed version to look like a tornado, and it looked pretty cool, but she eventually removed it so it would look like this. So every stage of the way, she was taking photographs, documenting it, to make sure that if anything happened, she'd know that she could recur and say, this happened, and I need to stop. Yes?
I may have missed it. Is there a charge
You didn't miss the charge. Oh, okay. Yes, there is a charge. And I will say that the charge for something like this at either a regional conservation center or a private conservation business practice would be, what we would charge would be maybe 10 to 20% of what they would charge. And we do it.
Which is what?
Well, in this particular case, I remember this was upwards of maybe, I think we charged them, I think, $3,000 to $4,000 because it needed a stretcher. That's something that we had to purchase, and it required quite a bit of examination as well. Outside, it would have been maybe $20,000 to $25,000.
Is it determined by the amount of time, the hours taken, or the materials? Or how do you determine the charge?
If we were to determine time, people would go broke because the students are slow, they're learning, and they also have the professor as a consultant. So we estimate it pretty much based on the materials.
Okay,
Yeah.
thank you.
So it kind of, we need to replace what we use, so that's the benefit. And we also do a lot of scientific analyses, and we also do a lot of imaging, and those things require time. So we're kind of hoping that it offsets the material and the equipment and the instrumentation that we use.
Have you done any birch fields restoration?
Yes, we have, and it's been a while. We work closely with the Birchfield Center, but we haven't had any Birchfield, either watercolors or wallpapers in for a while. Yes.
Who gets the money? Say it's $20,000.
I do. No, I don't get the money. It goes into a kind of a restricted account for the department, so that way we can spend it for either guest lecture or materials or supplies and things of that sort.
So the students don't get it?
No.
So this goes into
This goes into a separate
a
account.
separate account?
If the students were to get paid for the work they do, it would be a business, it would not be education, and the IRS, the New York State tax, it would be a nightmare. So, yeah, but they benefit, the department benefits in that way to be able to replenish our materials, and we don't, in a sense, have to require that from state funds. So there's a benefit to the state or the SUNY system, as well as the students and the professors.
Were you involved in the restoration of the basilica in
No.
Lackawanna?
No. That's a huge project. Yeah. Oh, sorry.
In a previous life, I was director of the public library in Jamestown, New York, which at that time had a significant collection of late 19th and early 20th century paintings. And your folks restored 3 or 4 of them. Thank you very much.
You're very welcome. Glad to hear that.
Does anyone know when your open house is, when people bring works in? Is it on your website?
Well, we announce it on our website. So that would be one place to find out. The other one would be to contact our administrative assistant and get your name on the list. And you could probably get, if there's a general Fox Run email, we can send it there and then they could distribute it. So those are a couple of the ways to be able to get the information. Okay, so in paintings, there's quite a bit of research that goes on. And in this particular case, that painting you see up there is attributed to Rembrandt. Attributed. And part of the goal was to image it, also to be able to sample it, to be able to see if it was. And so it was very exciting to have that Rembrandt. Now, to have a Rembrandt come to your home is a nightmare, a logistical nightmare, security nightmare, insurance nightmare. But we made it all happen and it came. And this one belongs to the Memorial Art Gallery in Rochester, part of the University of Rochester.
Was it a Rembrandt?
I'll kind of keep you waiting. Still undetermined. I know, but we were just, come on, go Rembrandt, but it's undetermined. It's very likely that it was part of the studio, perhaps done by, supervised by him or done by one of his students. So basically, what we're doing here is imaging the piece in various sections, and then all that was piled together to give you a big image of, in this particular case, using daylight. Yeah, and they get pretty busy in the studio. You can, no, you've seen that. Okay, some more work. Painting by Ridgway Knight, also from the Albright. But what I want to point out here is, see how nice this part looks? See this half here? That's the discolored varnish. That's the difference that you can see when the original varnish was applied. It probably made these things punch out, but as it aged, it just discolors and hides detail, hides information, and it's not what the artist intended. And so we're having, some of the students are getting ready to image it, but I wanted to show you this kind of during treatment. It can be very dramatic. And the way Fiona was working with this, it almost looks like a very heavy spider web that's kind of covered in. Okay, so that's all about paintings. Now we're going to go look at some objects with Emily Hamilton. And by the way, I'm running way over time. So I apologize for that. Is that okay with you all? I don't see anybody complaining, but I just noticed that I should have been done 15 minutes ago. I guess I'm just being very slow today. Anyway, just some examples of a trinket basket, Japanese metal sword with a carved ivory, and a small horsehair sofa. Have any of you ever sat on a horsehair sofa? And then you tell, stay quiet, stay put. It's like having ants in your pants. I cannot believe it. Anyway, it's interesting. Anyway, so these are, in a sense, the variety of projects. I want to show you what the Starsha McGarity did. We have this interaction or exchange program with Tuskegee University. They had the Legacy Museum there, and so this was our first diorama to come to Buffalo State, and the diorama was part of the American Negro Exposition in 1940, and basically this was the Starsha's master's project, and so these are some dimensions. It's actually quite large, roughly 55 by 21, 55 by 37 by 21 deep, made of a wide range of materials, such as wood, masonite board, plaster, modeling wire, wire mesh, and a variety of things. In this particular case, this is one of 20 that the museum has, but we were lucky it does not have any asbestos. Some of the other ones do, and that becomes a very big problem. So I wanted to introduce you to Benjamin Banneker, with the arrow over his head, a free black man working with Ellicott. I think, this is to portray Ellicott from the elegant avenues that we have in the city, also a city planner. Examples of X-ray to show where nails are, also show where a variety of different structures, beams. Anyway, here you have another closer shot looking at, again, nails, but also the one in green at the far end is a crank in the wood barrel. The Starsha figured out a way to remove the dirt and dust. At first, her first test showed that the media is water soluble, with watercolor that had not, such as say, dried. So if you had any moisture applied to it, it would come off. So she figured she used a commercial name is Gamsol, but it's basically a white spirit, non-odorous organic solvent that she applied, which prevented the watercolor from being affected, and then was able to use moisture to remove dirt and dust. And so here you can see what it looks like after it's been treated. This is kind of the first comparison before and after, but let me show you some close-ups. This is the wire mesh tree that was, in a sense, revived. This is before treatment, and this is what it looks like afterwards. And the lighting conditions we try to make as close as possible so you can see that difference. And I want to show you the racing stripes here. That was water damage. So basically, we removed his racing stripes. And again, another comparison of before and after. Liz Larsson and I drove this down back to Tuskegee University, where the curator and the staff were very pleased. And this is I'll say, a project that Buffalo State is involved in, but also our colleagues at the University of Delaware in Winterthur, as well as some other private conservators in Nashville. So it's kind of a nice consortium that's working on these. And in this particular case, we're doing this gratis pro bono. So we also deal with taxidermy, and Fran Ritchie from the class of 2013 is an object conservator at the National Park Service, and she just loves taxidermy. And basically what you have is, and this is, maybe you remember, this is actually a orangutan that was in the zoo, in the Buffalo Zoo. And Lucy died, and they had her taxidermied. And this is what she was in really bad shape. Her natural skin was replaced with rubber glove type material that had degraded. So, but after a lot of work, this is what she ended up looking like. And you can see she's just cracking a smile. So that's what we do with paper, with painting, and with objects. Now, this is, again, you see the imaging studio with very large works of art. And when we do all the imaging, we met with Juan earlier. And we also have quite a bit of organic and inorganic instrumentation. So we have the wet chemistry lab. And on this side right here is a gas chromatograph and mass spectrometer. We have the optical microscopes to be able to do polarized light microscopy as well as reflected and transmitted light microscopy. And here are some of the students using some of the work. And this is what Rebecca teaches as well. More student projects, learning how to do pH of materials, pH of solutions, student creating gels for use in treatment. More boring instruments, but these provide us really good information. More. So I just want to kind of close by saying you've seen that we use art, history, science, craft, culture, and technology. We have this cross-trans or interdisciplinary approach to looking at every object that comes in. And that's basically what we teach and how we teach it. And I thank you very much for your time.
Thank you so much, Professor Ravinas. This is for you. Does anyone have any questions? Yes, Kelly.
Hi. Do the students in this program attend
classes in other programs, or are they strictly, or are they restricted to just classes in this room?
Okay, we do have cooperative ventures with our colleagues in Delaware and New York. New York City, that is. The Library and Archives Conservation Program has, we work with Columbia University, NYU, and Delaware, and every so often we have courses that are held here in Buffalo. And the course we hold in Buffalo is called a parchment workshop, where we're dealing with either vellum, parchment, or it's called membrane, that was used pre-paper in Europe. At Columbia, 5 of our students just attended a rare book workshop with Columbia University Libraries and the conservators there. And there's another workshop that we have where students learn about book models, and that was the last one was held at New York University. So we have collaborative programs, and we're trying to do that more as resources, and universities are not in the best of times these days with declining populations and budget cutting. So we're trying to collaborate inter-university-wise so that we can actually have a viable program and that more than just a few take advantage of the material. Yes?
Two things. Excuse me. Did the Garland Family Foundation gift provide your equipment then?
Okay. The Garment Family gift, which was a very generous gift, is really, of the $4 million that they gave, $3.5 million is an endowed account for student fellowship support, and $500,000 is dedicated to, and also an endowed account to support faculty research and professional development. So none of it has gone into equipment, unfortunately, but this is, in my mind, putting it in an endowed account it continues to give, as opposed to making it spend. So that's number one. What's number two?
The number two is, I'm a docent at the Birchfield Penny, and a couple of years ago, there was a wonderful exhibit on the work of your conservation department, and it's very popular.
Well, thank you. I'm glad you went. Glad you're a docent there as well. That was for our 50th anniversary. Since 1970, so that was like 3-4 years ago that we had that. And when I floated the idea by Scott Propriak, who was, I think, interim director at the time, he said, let's, yes, now director. He said, yes, let's do it. So that was really cool that we had objects. The Salamanca Seneca Iroquois National Museum actually loaned a piece that we'd done for them, and they loaned that. So no, it was really a nice show. I think the Albrecht also provided some works, and so we were able to show before and after like you've seen today. Thanks for bringing it up.
Did they restore the Four Seasons at the Roy in East Aurora?
Professor of Paintings Conservation James Ham was involved in that, and that was one of his sabbatical projects. And he involved, I think, 3 or 4 students who were focusing on paintings. Yes, that was, I would say it was more his work, but since he's in the department, I'll claim some credit too.
Last question, Diane.
Okay. The finish on these oil paintings turned. Okay. They look terrible after a while. Are you better off not using it?
Well, that's a yes and no question, because the varnish, the finish, the varnish does provide a protective coating, but it also has an optical effect. It really, in a sense, saturates the colors. And if the artist used it, then we would like to mimic that. So we would probably vote on putting something on that is more chemically stable than what had been done before. So by saying chemically stable, I mean that it will probably take longer for it to discolor, and it should be also removable so that that can be redone. Leaving it unvarnished does not comply with the artist's intent, but also, if it's not protected by the varnish, it's going to accumulate dust on the paint itself. And so these are some of the things that we weigh when looking at what to do.
Well, thank you everyone for coming, and give Professor Ravinas one more hand.